right, we're here at PFL Europe Belfast with the head of fighter operations, Dan Hardy. How is everything going to expectation right now? Because it was a big event. Paul Hughes is headlining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, this fight card, this event, I mean, we've had a couple of injuries, people got a couple of staph infections and that took people out of fights, which, is disappointing for them. But overall, I mean, the fight card for me is probably one of the best that we've ever had. I mean, I'm like every single fight on the card is a coin toss. It could go either way, and it's about who shows up on the night. And, honestly, like the weigh-in show and the preparation around the event and this arena as well. Yeah, I'm really excited and happy with this show.
I'm very familiar with the 3 arena atmosphere, so I heard that it might be even better here.
This is what I've heard, yeah. I mean, Cole Frampton's fought here a couple of times, and he always talks about the roof being lower, so it makes it sound really...
Yeah.
I'm interested to see, because obviously I've been to a few events here before, but I've never been to a Paul Hughes fight here before, and I feel like that's going to be different.
Nobody has.
No.
Yeah, so that's big. I've been covering PFL Europe from the first event, from its inception, all the way up until now. I've seen the evolution and everything like that. What are some road bumps that you faced, and what are some things that have gotten a lot better?
You know what? I mean, it's been a learning experience for me, obviously, as you know. I mean, I came from, fighting to broadcasting, so now me being in this matchmaking role is, I mean, every day's got a new challenge for me, but they're challenges that I like. I like talking to the fighters, dealing with them. I like putting people in fair matchups as well. That's the signature of my fight cards. You can look down them and everybody's in a fight that they can win. But I mean, aside from that, it's just, it was time for Paul to come back here. He didn't need to fight. He wanted to fight. We needed someone who was legit. Bruno Miranda made a lot of sense. He had a fantastic fight against Pitbull. And I just feel like this, you get the best version of Paul when he's got someone very, very dangerous in front of him, And when you put a more dangerous opponent, he raises his level to that. So what I didn't want to do is give him someone that was not going to excite him in that way,
Yeah, and excite the crowd as well, like back and forth,
Exactly.
Yeah. So here's the thing. PFL bought Bellator, right? And a lot of people have questions about what was the plan with that. What's going on now? Some people are confused about the structure.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get to one point where I was in a bit, but first we'll have to you explain what happened with the whole Bellator thing and the idea around it.
Yeah, I mean, it was a weird thing because obviously, Bellator was a strong brand and it had been going for many years. I mean, I was a fan. I've been to many, many Bellator events, but it was always kind of struggling along. You know what I mean? That was the thing with Bellator. It had moments where it was really, really strong, and then moments where it would struggle. But the reality is the Bellator roster was really strong. We wanted some of those fighters in our tournaments. We wanted them in the regular season, and it raised the level of the PFL fighters by bringing the Bellator roster in. But of course, I mean, these things are never straightforward. It was the same when the UFC merged with IMG. That was not straightforward either.
Yeah.
There's bumps in the road, but ultimately, we're going to work through them and we're going to put ourselves in the best position to give a platform to these fighters. And look, fighters are going to get frustrated. That's the nature of the sport. I remember being frustrated all the time because I want to be fighting yesterday. But, this is a very challenging industry that we're building ourselves into. And first and foremost, we have the fighters as our priority. And I'm speaking from the heart when I say that. So my focus now will be to make sure that everybody becomes a PFL fighter and everyone keeps moving forward.
It's that whole balance between trying to be fair and also having to run a business. It's people sometimes
this is it.
And
there's
there's no insight into like the business that other people see. So.
This is it. And the thing is as well, a lot more could be said about it. And I'm not in a position to say it. And I wouldn't take that step over the line because there are people above me that they're the people that make those decisions. But what I will say is that ultimately, the Bellator fighters will have benefited in the long run from PFL acquiring the organization because had we not, Bellator would be no longer. You know what I mean?
So either way, it would have been.
Either way, Bellator was going away. It was. There was a lot of excitement around that, but then MMA has been monopolized, as you know, by the UFC. I mean, they're being sued left and right at the moment for exactly that reason. And we, along with Bellator and along with all the other organizations, we're working against, the monopolized sport, which is unfortunate, But the reality is, look, fighters are getting activity and they're getting paid. And if we go away and if Bellator goes away and if it's just one big promotion, then there's a lot of fighters that are sitting waiting. And that would be horrible. I mean, as a fighter, I know what it's like to not be able to get activity and dedicate your life to something.
Yeah.
And, some fighters have left Bellator, left PFL, and moved over onto the UFC, and they're making a fraction of what they were making here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like there's pros and cons to all of it, but I hope in the next couple of years it starts to settle down a bit.
So about a year ago, my friend and I dropped our MMA. She fights as well. We had this idea of like, how would we, if you gave me the job to run PFL, this is how I would run it.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to see if I get the job when I explain it to you.
Okay.
But to be fair, it seems like this year it's going that direction. I think when people talk to me about PFL Europe, ask me about it from outside of Europe, I say this is a different beast.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like this is, they put on the UFC level show, like production-wise as well, the fan base. You know, I think the bread and butter of PFL, the income, comes from those continental shows, and now you got Africa, PFL Pacific is going to launch. Create a promotion system. The winners go to PFL Global and get those eyeballs with them, the big fan base. And then also create a relegation system, like in football.
Exactly that.
Soccer for the Americans, right? So, yeah. Is that kind of the direction you're going with?
Yeah, I mean, that's what makes sense to me. You know, all the regional leagues need to sync up. And obviously with the emergence of one league and then the next, and like we're all on different time zones, different schedules. So what we really need to do is to let these regions, you know, become as embedded as PFL Europe is, and then sync everything together. I mean, we're finding fighters from all over the world. I mean, obviously PFL Africa is being built out. PFL Pacific is being built out right now. Mm-hmm. So we're out there acquiring good talent that's going to eventually find its way into the global tournament. But, you know, it's a process. And I think you're right. You know, PFL Europe has kind of led the charge for the PFL. Mm-hmm. I think, you know, and you'll notice that we've gone from 4 weight classes to 2 for the tournament. Yeah. Right. The last 2 years we've had 4 weight classes. We decided to change that because we do bigger arenas over here. We have more tickets sold. So we need to make the event tailored to the fans in attendance. Yeah. So we've got, you know, an incredible main and co-main event featuring Irish fighters in both. Then we've got an Irish fighter in the bracket, and then all of the other fights as well. It just, that makes sense. They're well balanced, you know. Yeah. And then doubled the weight classes in the global tournament. So yeah, because funny enough, the thing that got my attention is like at the end of the year we round up like who did the best numbers interviews and podcasts, everything like that. Mm-hmm. And Florence and Daly actually killed the numbers over McGrillen, over everyone else. And I'm thinking because Albania doesn't have a lot of talent coming from there, but they have a big fight fan base. The entire Albania like watches him. That's amazing. So now he goes to the global scene, he gets those eyeballs. So that's what gave me the idea of like, hey, you know, you got to do the same thing for every continental show. Exactly that. And you know, and we've got to make that path clear. You know, and obviously Dakota Ditcher has done a really good job of highlighting that pathway. But ultimately it is there. And, you know, we're going to have it in all of the other regions. You know, we've got PFL MENA champions now, but soon we're going to have all of these regions producing champions, and they'll all be going to the, you know, the world tournament. And what I honestly hope is that we have the world tournament, and then we have a section of fighters above that are the elite of the elite, you know, the likes of Paul Hughes and
like the champs of the champs. Exactly. That's the Challenger Series.
Champion Series, yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's okay. So that's it. That hopefully that clarifies things for people as well. Everything. Thank you for your time, always, Dan, and good luck.
Thank you for your support. You've been here every one of the shows. I appreciate
everyone,
that.
Except one when I was in Canada. That's it.
Well, I mean, Canada's a beautiful place.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.